Yo, Shalom, Shalom. This is gonna be a very quick and concise lesson. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna break down Isaiah 64 and verse 6. So y'all just give me just a moment. Share screen. All right. So we're gonna look at Isaiah 64 and 6. Let's read it. It says, "But we are all as unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags. And we all do fade as a leaf, and our iniquities, like the wind, have taken us away." Reason I'm bringing this out is because I heard an argument saying, okay, our righteousness are as filthy rags, which must mean that we cannot be righteous no matter what we do. We're always going to be filthy rags. That's what I heard, and I don't agree with it at all. But this is the scripture they use to support that. All right. But I'm gonna give y'all understanding on what it means. So it says, but we are all as an unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags. Now that's a true statement. But what we got to ask ourselves is, what righteousness is it talking about? Right? Because there's not just one righteousness according to the scripture. You have God's righteousness, then you have your own righteousness. Right? Let's prove that. Let's go straight to Romans 10. Because we wouldn't call God's righteousness unfilthy, would we? It don't make sense. So we're going to go to Romans 10. I'm going to show you what it means to have your own righteousness. This Romans 10 and 1. It says, "Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge." Right? That's key. Verse 3. "For they being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God." So see right there, it separates the two righteousness, God's righteousness and their own righteousness. This is what it means to have your own righteousness as filthy rags. When you establish your own righteousness, right, and you don't go after God's righteousness, right? So we can stop the doctrine of saying, well, there's no way you can be righteous. There's no righteous man upon the earth, because they like to say that too. There's nobody righteous. And we're going to get the scripture in Romans 3, and we're going to break that down too. But before we do, let's go to Revelation 22, just to show you that there is righteous man upon the earth. This Revelation 22 and 10, it says, "And he saith unto me, seal not the sayings of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still." Right? So this is the last book of the Bible, prophetically speaking. It's saying those who are righteous, let them be righteous still, right? But let's keep reading actually. Verse 12. "And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according as his work shall be." Right? So we got a work of righteousness. "I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city." So who's going to be entering in through the gates of the city? Those who keep his commandments. Those who are what? Righteous still. Right? So let's go back to Isaiah 64. And matter of fact, when we read on Isaiah 64, let's start at verse 4. It says, "For since the beginning of the world, man have not heard nor perceived by the ear, neither have the eye seen, O God, beside thee, what he hath prepared for him that waiteth for thee. Thou meetest him that rejoiceth and worketh righteousness, those that remember thee in thy ways. Behold, thou art wroth. For we have sinned, and in those continuance, and we shall be saved. But we are all as an unclean thing." Why are we unclean? Because we sinned, right? Establishing our own righteousness. "And all our righteousness," right? Not God's righteousness, our righteousness are as filthy rags. "And we all do fade as a leaf, in our iniquities." Was that sin? Right? Iniquity is sin. "All our iniquities, like the wind, have taken us away. And there is none that call upon thy name, that stir up himself to take hold of thee. For thou has hid thy face from us and have consumed us because of our iniquity, because of our sin. So that unrighteousness or our own righteousness is going into the iniquity, into sin, right? Now, let's get another passage, Romans 3, right? Another passage people try to use to, give themselves an excuse on why they can stay in sin, right? Romans 3 and 9. It says, what then? Are we better than they? No, in no wise. For we have before proved both Jews and Gentiles that they are all under sin. Here goes the point. As it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. So when we read this, people will say, well, Paul is teaching that no one is righteous. No one. Even though we just read in Revelation, it said, let the righteous be righteous still. So is this a contradiction? God forbid. Now let's show you why Paul said that. Now notice it said, as it is written. Now, if you just would have did a little bit of studying, all you have to do is look right here. Psalms 14. They're showing you where the passage come from. Now let's see if that's talking about everybody on the earth is unrighteous. Let's go to Psalms 14. Because we have to stop this false doctrine of, well, I can stay comfortable in my sin because we're all unrighteous anyway. Right? We got to stop that. So this is Psalms 14, where Paul is quoting. It says, the fool have said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none that doeth good. There you go. So this is where he quoted it from. Now notice, who is this talking about? The fool. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God, right? So this is not even talking about everybody. This is talking about the people who said there's no God. But going back to Romans 3, let's keep reading and make sense of this. Starting at verse 10 again. It says, as it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. Now, when we continue reading, let's just continue the logic, right? Let's just make sense of this. It says, there is none that understandeth, there is none that seeketh after God. Now, let's think for a second. The same people who use verse 10 to say there's nobody righteous on the earth, how would they explain verse 11? Because that said there's none seeking after God. Is that a true statement? Right? So the people who read verse 10, do they seek after God? So how can you use verse 10 to say this is talking about everybody, but verse 11, well, it's not talking about everybody, right? Because it said there's none that seeketh after God. Now we know Paul can't be talking about everybody because Paul himself seeketh after God. So that's why we can't use these statements to make doctrines off of and say, well, there's nobody righteous on the earth, not one, right? Let's keep reading. Verse 12. They are all gone out of the way. They are together become unprofitable. There is none that doeth good. No, not one. There it go again. Right? Their throat is an open sepulchre. With their tongues they have used deceit. The poison of ops is under their lips. And I probably pronounced that wrong. But Romans 3 and 13, let's see if we can see where that's quoted from. I believe that's Psalms 5 and 9. Let's see if I'm correct. Psalms 5. And we're going to get verse 9. Because remember, Paul is pulling all this from the Old Testament. It says, for there is no faithfulness in their mouth. Their inward part is very wickedness. Their throat is an open sepulchre. They flatter with their tongue. Right? So there it is again. Also, we're going to get the book of Psalms 140 and verse, I believe it's 3. We're finna find out right now. Yep, says the same thing. They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. Salah. All right? But who's the context? Who is it talking about? Verse 1. Deliver me, O Lord, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man. So Basically, what I'm saying is this: it's very unfair to use the scriptures and isolate one verse and make a doctrine to say that we cannot be righteous. That is very unfair. I'm gonna read this scripture in Revelation one more time. Revelation 22:11. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. So Israel, don't don't let nobody teach you that it's impossible to be righteous, that you can't obtain righteous. Just know the difference between your righteousness and God's righteousness. You should be seeking after God's righteousness, not your own righteousness. All right. So don't let nobody teach you that you can't keep the commandments and you can't obtain righteousness. That is a false doctrine. But with that, I'm gonna say shalom.